No risk, no story. Good evening, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about something that may sound simple, but is in fact one of life's biggest challenges and its greatest reward. It's the idea of stepping out of our comfort zones, pushing past our fears, and embracing risk to live a life with meaning, a life with a story. No risk, no story. Think about your heroes, the people who inspire you. What do they all have in common? Each of them, in their own way, chose to take risks that others wouldn't. They went against the grain, faced the unknown, and put their whole selves on the line. And because of that, they have a story worth telling. So ask yourself, what story do you want to tell? Are you playing it safe? Or are you daring to create something extraordinary with your life? And I know taking risk is hard, it's uncomfortable. It means stepping into a place where there are no guarantees, where failure is a possibility. But I believe that the only failure is not trying at all. Risk is what makes us feel alive. It's what brings us closer to who we really are. So when that little voice inside you starts whispering again, I want you to listen this time. And I want you to trust that voice. Know that you have something worth risking for. Because in the end, the real regret isn't the things we try and fail at. The real regret is the story we never allowed ourselves to live. Step out of your comfort zone. Stepping out of your comfort zone isn't just a choice, it's a necessity if you want to grow, transform, and live a life of purpose. Because here's the truth, nothing, and I mean nothing worth having, is going to come from that safe little circle we draw around ourselves. Staying comfortable can feel warm and reassuring, but it can also be a cage, keeping us from seeing our own potential. I want you to understand that every time you step out, every single time you push yourself into new territory, you give yourself the chance to discover something extraordinary about who you are. I want you to remember this: growth doesn't happen in the familiar. It doesn't happen in places where you already know all the answers, where you're already sure of the outcome. Growth happens when you're challenged. It happens when you stretch beyond what you thought you could handle, beyond what you thought was even possible for you. Let's be real, nobody likes to feel uncomfortable. It's natural to want to pull back when things get hard, when things get messy. But every time you lean into that discomfort, you're giving yourself a gift. You're saying to yourself, I am worth this risk. I am worth stepping into the unknown. Because you know what happens when you do. You surprise yourself. You find out that you're braver than you thought, that you're stronger than you realized, and that there's a world of opportunity waiting for you that you never would have known existed if you hadn't taken that first step. And don't think for a moment that stepping out of your comfort zone means you have to do it all perfectly. No, no, no. The beauty of stepping out isn't in getting everything right. It's in giving yourself permission to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, and to find your way. Sometimes you're going to stumble. Sometimes you're going to fall flat on your face. And that's okay. That's more than okay. It's necessary. Those stumbles, those falls, they are a part of the journey. They are the lessons that shape you, that prepare you for even bigger, even braver steps. And when you take these steps, when you have the courage to leave your comfort behind, you start to inspire others too. They see you standing in your truth, facing your fears, daring to try, and they think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. You become a light for someone else, a reminder that we are not here to live small, comfortable lives. We are here to push the boundaries of what's possible. We are here to reach, to stretch, to soar. So today, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you to look at the places in your life where you're holding back, where you're playing it safe. What's one thing you can do today to step just a little bit outside of that comfort zone? Maybe it's making that phone call you've been avoiding. Maybe it's putting your name out there for the opportunity you've been dreaming about. Or maybe it's as simple as speaking your mind in a room where you've been quiet too long. Whatever it is, make that choice today. Take that step, because that's where real, honest to goodness change begins. You are meant for more than a comfortable life. You are meant for a remarkable life, a life that speaks to your soul and sets your heart on fire. Face your fears boldly. Let's talk about fear, because if there's one thing we all have in common, it's that every single one of us knows what it's like to be afraid. Fear can be sneaky. It can disguise itself as procrastination, as hesitation, as the voice in the back of our minds that tells us we're not ready yet, that we're not good enough yet. But the truth about fear is that it only has power if we let it. Fear only controls us if we let it sit there quietly holding us back. And today I want you to know you don't have to let it. When you stand up to fear, you tell yourself, I am stronger than this. I am worth the risk. And you know what happens when you do that? You start to discover a whole new side of yourself, a side that is courageous, a side that's ready to try things you never thought possible, a side that won't let anything, not even fear, hold you back from what you deserve. Because you do deserve it. You deserve the opportunity to go after what you want, to live a life that excites you, to be the person you know you're meant to be. And that journey, that growth is right there, right beyond your fears. Now think about it. Fear will often paint a picture of the worst case scenario. It'll have you imagining every single thing that could go wrong. It'll try to convince you that failure is waiting right around the corner. But what if, instead of seeing those fears as a stop sign, you saw them as a green light, a sign that something incredible is on the horizon, something that's going to push you, that's going to change you? What if every time you felt afraid, you asked yourself, what if I succeed? What if, instead of letting fear lead, you let hope and faith guide you? And I want you to remember this. Facing your fears boldly isn't about trying to be fearless. It's about acknowledging that fear and courage can walk hand in hand. Courage doesn't mean you don't feel afraid. It means you don't let fear be the loudest voice in the room. It means that no matter how loud fear shouts, no matter how much it tries to hold you back, you choose to listen to the voice that says you are enough. You can do this. Because the more you face your fears, the quieter that fearful voice becomes. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice courage, the stronger it grows and the weaker fear becomes. And I want you to think about the legacy of facing your fears. When you choose to be brave, to live fully and openly, you give other people permission to do the same. You create a ripple effect. People see your courage, they see your determination, and they think if they can face their fears, maybe I can too. Your boldness, your willingness to look fear in the face and say, I'm not going to let you stop me, gives others the courage to do the same. You become an example of what's possible, of what can happen when we don't let fear run the show. So today I'm challenging you to face one fear, just one. Maybe it's making that big decision you've been putting off. Maybe it's sharing something real and vulnerable with someone close to you. Or maybe it's just taking the first step toward a dream that feels too big to hold. Whatever it is, take that step, move toward that fear, and watch how life meets you on the other side. Because when you face your fears boldly, you're telling the universe, I am ready. You're opening yourself to a life that's rich, that's full, that's more beautiful than you could ever imagine. And if fear creeps back up, if doubt tries to slip in, remember this, you have a power inside you that fear cannot touch. Fear may be loud, but it doesn't get the last word. You do. So let that voice be strong. Let it be bold. Let it be fierce. And let it carry you forward to the life you deserve. Embrace everyday risks. Let's talk about those little risks. You know, the ones we face every single day, the risks that may not make headlines, that may not change the world overnight, but that can change our lives one step at a time. Those everyday risks may seem small, but they're the very foundation of a bold, meaningful life. Because here's the truth, it's not always the big, dramatic moments that transform us. Often it's the quiet choices, the little risks we take every day that shape who we are and lead us to where we're meant to be. Every single day, we're given opportunities to choose courage over comfort, to take a step that might not be easy but is worth it. Think about it. Every time you stand up for yourself, Every time you raise your hand to share an idea, every time you make a choice that aligns with your true self, you're taking a risk. It may not feel big in the moment, but those everyday risks add up. They create a pattern of courage, a foundation of strength. They start building a life that isn't just ordinary, but extraordinary in its authenticity. Now, let me be clear, taking everyday risks doesn't mean we have to dive into the deep end every morning. It doesn't mean we have to change the entire world in one day or make massive sacrifices. Sometimes an everyday risk is as simple as speaking your mind, even if your voice trembles. It's saying yes when an opportunity scares you, but excites you just a little more. Or saying no when everyone expects a yes, because deep down, you know it's the right decision for you. Everyday risks are those choices that keep us honest, keep us real, and keep us growing. And you know what's beautiful? Each time you take one of these small, seemingly insignificant risks, you're telling yourself, I trust me. You're reminding yourself that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you have something to offer. It's in these choices, these everyday moments of bravery, that you start to rewrite the story you tell yourself. You start to believe deep down that you are not here to live on the sidelines. You are here to live fully, to step into each day with an open heart and a willing spirit. So ask yourself, what's one small risk you can take today? What's one thing you can do to stretch just a little beyond your comfort zone? It doesn't have to be big. It can be a conversation you've been avoiding, an idea you've been sitting on, a dream you've been tucking away for a someday that hasn't arrived yet. Just one little step. And when you take that step, notice how it feels. Notice the pride that comes from choosing courage over fear, even in the smallest of ways. Notice how alive you feel, how real life feels when you're walking toward it with an open heart. And if that fear creeps in, if that voice in the back of your mind tries to tell you to stay safe, remind yourself of this. It's not the size of the risk that matters, it's the size of your courage. When you embrace these everyday risks, you're telling the world and yourself that you are willing to live a life that's authentic, that's bold, that's fully and completely yours. You're saying yes to a life that reflects who you really are, not who you think you need to be. So keep going, keep taking those small risks, keep choosing honesty, bravery, and openness every single day. Because each little risk, each little step forward is another chapter in the story of a life well lived. A life that's not just about existing, but about truly living, about leaning in, about embracing every moment is the miracle it is. Listen to your inner voice. Listening to your inner voice, oh, that's where true power lives. That voice inside of you, that quiet, sometimes gentle whisper, it's guiding you, nudging you, calling you to step into the fullness of who you are. But here's the thing, so often we ignore that voice. We drown it out with the noise of others, with the expectations of the world, with the shoulds and oughts that have no place in the life we're meant to live. Today, I want you to lean in and listen, really listen to that voice within you, because it knows things. It knows the truth of who you are. It knows what you need. And it knows the path that is meant for you. Now, I want you to think about this. How many times have you felt a little nudge, a little whisper telling you to go a certain way, to say something, to try something, and you pushed it down? You doubted it. You questioned it. You told yourself you think about it later. But that voice isn't just there to be heard later. It's there because it's speaking to the truth of what you need right now. That voice is your inner compass. And when you learn to listen to it, to trust it, it will never steer you wrong. Let me tell you, that inner voice is wise. It is the part of you that's deeply connected to your purpose, to your desires, to the core of who you are. And when you listen to it, when you give it the respect it deserves, you start living in a way that feels right. Not right according to anyone else, but right according to you. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing more liberating than that. Because when you listen to your inner voice, you start making choices that reflect who you really are, not who the world expects you to be. You start saying yes to what truly matters and saying no without guilt to everything that doesn't. Now, listening to that voice is not always easy. Sometimes it will tell you things that feel scary, that feel a little too big to hold. It might tell you to take a risk, to let go of something, or to go after a dream that feels impossible. But I'm here to tell you that if that voice is saying it, there is a reason. That inner voice is wise beyond anything we can comprehend. It's connected to a deeper knowing, a part of ourselves that can see what we cannot. And when you listen to it, when you lean into that wisdom, you open doors that you didn't even know were there. And let me tell you something else, when you listen to your inner voice, when you live by that deep, quiet knowing, you inspire others to do the same. People see you trusting yourself, and it gives them permission to listen to their own inner voices. You become a reminder that we all have that wisdom inside us, that we don't need to be anyone other than who we are. You show the world that it's okay to be real, to be imperfect, to be true. You show others that there is strength, beauty, and courage in honoring who you really are. So let today be the day you make a commitment to listen. Let today be the day you decide to trust yourself, to lean into that voice within, and to honor it with every choice you make. Because that voice is your compass, your guide, your truth. And when you follow it, you are unstoppable. Redefine failure. Let's redefine failure, because the way we look at failure is one of the most important shifts we can make in our lives. Too often we think of failure as the end, as the final word, as proof that we weren't good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. But I'm here to tell you, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the journey to success. It's one of the most powerful teachers you will ever have, because failure, when we embrace it, when we learn from it, becomes a stepping stone to greatness. Now, I want you to think about this. Every time you fail, you are gathering wisdom, you are gaining insights, you are building resilience that you can't get from success alone. Failure shows us what needs to change, where we can grow, and how we can come back stronger. It's not an ending, it's a beginning. And when you look at it that way, when you see failure as a lesson, as a mentor, as a guide, you start to realize that there is no such thing as true failure. There are only experiences that move you forward, that open doors, that reveal new paths you hadn't even seen before. Imagine if we lived our lives without the fear of failing. Imagine if every time we took a risk, every time we tried something new, we didn't worry about whether it would work out perfectly. Think of the freedom, the joy, the creativity we'd be able to bring to everything we do. Redefining failure means giving ourselves permission to try, to experiment, to explore without the weight of needing everything to be perfect. It means understanding that every setback is temporary, that every no is just one step closer to a yes, and that every mistake is a sign that we are on a path of growth, learning, and discovery. And let's be real, failure doesn't always feel good in the moment. It can sting. It can feel like the rug's been pulled out from under you. It can make you question everything. But I want you to remember this: the pain of failure is temporary, but the growth, the strength, and the resilience you gain from it can last a lifetime. Every time you fail and get back up, every time you try again after falling, you're proving to yourself just how strong you really are. You're showing yourself that you are capable, that you are resilient, that you are willing to do what it takes to live a life of meaning and purpose. And let's remember, failure is often just life's way of redirecting us. Sometimes things don't work out because something even better is waiting for us around the corner. Sometimes a door closes because we are meant to find a different, more meaningful path. So when you fail, don't just look at it as an end. Look at it as an invitation to dig deeper, to ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Where am I being guided? Because when you start to see failure as redirection, as guidance, as part of your journey, you stop being afraid of it and you start trusting the process of your life. So today, I want you to think about one area of your life where you're holding back because you're afraid to fail. I want you to imagine what it would look like to go after that goal, to pursue that dream, to take that chance without letting the fear of failure hold you back. Imagine the freedom, the joy, the sense of purpose that would come from knowing that you are living fully, that you are giving everything you have without letting failure stop you. Because when you redefine failure, when you embrace it as a necessary part of growth, you open yourself up to a life of possibility, of courage, of meaning. Because when you redefine failure, you're not just changing your perspective, you're changing your life. You're choosing to live without limits, to take risks, to try new things, and to go after what you really want. You're choosing to believe in yourself, to trust in your journey, and to know that no matter what happens, you are enough. So go ahead, take that leap, try that new thing, and don't be afraid to fall. Because every time you do, you're taking one step closer to the life you're meant to live. Choose to live authentically. Choosing to live authentically, that is the ultimate freedom. It's the decision to show up in every room, in every relationship, in every moment as the truest version of yourself. And let me tell you, that's not always easy. It means taking off the mask we wear, letting go of the roles we think we need to play, and stepping out from behind the expectations that the world, our families, our friends, or even we ourselves may have put on us. Living authentically is an act of courage because it requires you to be vulnerable, to be real, to be unapologetically you. When you choose to live authentically, you are making a commitment to honor who you are at your core. You're saying, this is me, this is who I am with all my strengths, my quirks, my dreams, my flaws. You're stepping into a life that isn't about pleasing others or fitting into someone else's mold. It's about listening to that inner voice, that wise guide within you, and letting it lead you. It's about asking yourself, what feels right to me? What brings me joy? What aligns with my spirit? And following that, even when the world might tell you to go another way. Authenticity is a powerful thing. When you choose to live authentically, you find a deep sense of peace, of clarity, of joy that no one can take away from you. Because when you're living true to yourself, you're not looking outside for approval, for validation, for permission. You realize that you are already enough just as you are. You realize that the only person you need to please, the only person you need to live for is you. And there is no greater freedom than that, no greater power than standing in the fullness of who you are, knowing that you are worthy, that you are whole, that you are complete. And here's the thing, when you live authentically, you give others permission to do the same. People see your courage, your truth, your willingness to be real, and it inspires them to be real too. You become a light, a reminder that we don't have to fit and to belong, that we don't have to be anything other than who we are. You show others that there is strength in vulnerability, that there is beauty in being unapologetically yourself. Living authentically is not just a gift you give yourself. It's a gift you give to the world because you show others what it means to live freely, boldly, and honestly. So today, I invite you to choose authenticity. I invite you to stand in your truth, to live in a way that feels right to you, even if it looks different from what others expect. I invite you to let go of the need to be perfect, to be liked, to fit in, and instead to embrace the freedom of being who you are. Because when you choose to live authentically, you are choosing a life that is rich, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. You are choosing to live with purpose, with passion, and with a sense of joy that comes from knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. So be brave, be bold, be true. Choose to live authentically and watch as your life transforms in ways you never imagined. Because when you live from a place of authenticity, when you choose to honor your spirit, your path, your truth, you are living the life you were always meant to live. So, as we wrap up, let this be the takeaway. Living authentically isn't just an option, it's a gift, a choice, a daily commitment to honoring who you truly are. Choosing authenticity means saying yes to yourself, yes to your dreams, yes to a life that feels aligned, fulfilling, and free. It's about stepping into each day with courage and vulnerability, knowing that the real power lies not in pleasing others, but in honoring the truth within you. Because at the end of the day, the world doesn't need more copies, more followers, more people trying to blend in. The world needs you in all your beautiful uniqueness and all your quirks, with all your passions and strengths. By choosing to live authentically, you're not only setting yourself free, you're giving permission to everyone around you to do the same. You're lighting a path, showing what it means to live a life of real joy, of true purpose, of deep, unshakable peace. So go forward boldly, knowing that when you live from a place of authenticity, when you embrace your true self, you're creating a life that's real, that's meaningful, and that's truly yours. And that, my friends, is a life well lived.